You know that since this thing has problem, but just don't go touch it. Just be going this way. You understand? Okay. You can start.
Okay, you said you're editing it.
We'll make all this part.
Okay, thank you very much. All right. Hello, good afternoon, class. You're welcome to Introduction to Public Administration, BUS121. I am Dr. Blessing John Abekan, and I'm here to take the course for Introduction to Public Administration. It's actually a course for business administration students or in their second semester, 100 level. So the course is Introduction to Public Administration, and I'll be the course lecturer that will be taking the course for today. So for the table of contents, we have the topic 1, the objective of the topic. We said at the end of the session, the student is expected to be able to understand the definition of public administration, the nature and scope of public administration, the distinction between public and private administration, as well as the role and importance of public administration. So that is what we'll be doing basically in our first topic for the semester. Now, what is public? Or before we even talk about what public administration is all about, what exactly is this public administration? So I would like us to dissect, to break the word public administration in bits and see what each word is all about or what it's talking about before we merge together the word and make sense out of it. Now, the word public means people of a definite territory or a state. People of a state, we said they are referred to as public. While administer is an English word which is originated from the Latin word ad and administrare. It means to serve or to manage. So we said administer has it's originated from the Latin word ad, and administrare means to serve or to manage. So we can say to when you say to administer, it means to serve or to manage. While administration in itself is management of the affairs of the public or private, management of affairs of the public. Since we're talking about public administration, it is right for us to say administration means the management of the affairs of the public. Some other people will tell you that administration is the organization and direction, coordination, and control of the affairs of the public. So basically, that's what administration is all about. Now, having known what public to administer and administration is, we'll move forward to put together this word that is public and administration at the same time. So there are several authors have given their definition of what public administration is all about. Among this author is Professor Woodrow Wilson, who was one time the President of the United States of America. He is a pioneer of social science, of public administration, and in his book in 1887, we said he defined public administration as a detailed and systematic application of law. Wow. So Woodrow is telling us that public administration is a detailed and systematic application of law. Now, what that definition is talking about is that every particular application of law is an act of administration, okay? So we said, it is also, in other words, we can say it is what? Government in action, okay? So we said it involves getting the work of government done by what? Coordinating the efforts of people so that they can work together to accomplish their set goals. So that is what administration and public administration is, according to Professor Woodrow Wilson in 1887. Now, the next scholar or scholarly view about what public administration is that I would like us to point out, or I would like to point out to us, is the one by Denhart, 1995. He defined public administration as the management of public programs. Okay. Now, another definition by L.D. White, 1955, defined public administration. According to him, public administration consists of all those operations having for their purpose the fulfillment of public policy as declared by authority. Now, what this whole definition is talking about basically is that what public administration is the act of managing the affairs of a state. So when you manage the affairs of the state with the purpose or the aim of fulfilling public policy as declared by authority, according to White, we said that is what public administration. Now, we also have another definition by our very own Ademolekun, 1983. He defined public administration as activities concerned with management of government business and the study of the activities as practice and as knowledge. Also, according to Simon, he defined public administration as by public administration is meant the activities of the executive branch of the national, state, and the local government. And finally, I would also want us to look at the definition by M.E. Dimmock. He defined administration. The public administration is concerned, according to him, he said public administration is concerned with the what and the how of the government. Okay, so the what is the subject matter, the technical knowledge of the field, which enables the administrator to perform his task in a coordinated manner. So according to these scholars, they have given their views of what public administration is all about. And the one I love so much is the one by Professor Woodrow Wilson, who said that every application of law is an act of administration. So that is what public administration is all about. Now we now move to the nature of public administration. Moving to the nature of public administration, we said there are two views regarding the nature of public administration. We said there are two particular views regarding the nature of public administration. Now, the first view is the integral view, and we have the managerial view. Okay, so we said there are two divergent views regarding the nature of public administration, and we say the first is the integral view, while the second nature of public administration is the managerial view. Now, according to the integral view, administration is the sum total of all the activities, manual, clerical, managerial, to mention but a few, which are undertaken to realize the objectives of the organization. In this view, all the acts of the officials of the government, from the attendants to the secretaries of the government, of the heads of state, constitutes public administration. Okay, so what are we saying about this integral view? Now, we said according to this view, said public administration is a sum total of activities that are undertaken in the pursuit of and in fulfillment of public policy. Basically, that's what this whole view is all about. And we said these activities include not only managerial. Remember, we said the activities, a total of all activities, and we talked about the manual, we talked about the clerical, and also the managerial activities according to the integral view. Now we said these activities does not only necessarily include the manual, the clerical, or managerial. We said these activities are not only managerial or technical, but also manual and clerical. Now, manual and clerical, yes. So we said activities of all persons from the top of an organization to the bottom constitute what we refer to as what administration. So we said Henry Fayol, L.D. White are the supporters of this very view. So that's the first nature of public administration. Remember, we said the integral view is basically talking about the sum total of all the activities. That is the manual, the technical, the clerical, and the managerial activities that are being performed in an organization. We said that is what the nature of public administration. Now, according to the managerial view, still on the nature of public administration, remember we said we have two divergent views regarding the nature of public administration, and we've looked at the first view, which is the integral view. Now, the second view is referred to as the managerial view of administration. We said, according to the managerial view of administration, here we said the managerial activity of the people who are involved in planning, organizing, commanding, coordinating, and controlling constitutes public administration. We said these views regards administration as getting things done and not doing things. Now, these managerial views, the whole idea behind this managerial views, we said the views is just talking about that the works of those people who are engaged in the performance of managerial functions in an organization constitute administration. Remember the first view we talked about, which is the integral view. We said he talks about the activities that are managerial, that are technical, that are clerical, are what constitute public administration. Now, but this particular view, that's the managerial view, is saying that no, that the activities of people who are involved in planning, organizing, commanding, coordinating, and controlling constitute public administration. While the other view is trying to tell us that activities that are also clerical, that are also manual, constitute what? Public administration, not necessarily the managerial activities. While this one, because if you look at this planning, organizing, commanding, coordinating, and controlling are all variables that are managerial in nature. So we said, according to this view, is saying that what managerial activities of people who are involved in planning, organizing, commanding, and coordinating or controlling constitutes what public administration. Now we have Luther Gulick, Herbert Simon, Smithberg, and Thompson are the supporters of this very view. And we said the managerial views excludes public administration from non-managerial activities such as manual, clerical, and technical activities. So what this point is saying here is that unlike the integral view or integral view of the nature of public administration that sees the nature of public administration as those activities that are non-managerial in nature. And we've given examples of such activities as the manual, the clerical, the technical activities. They said they all form what we refer to as public. They are those things that forms public administrations, or those activities that forms public administration. While this managerial view is saying no, that managerial views went as far as excluding these non-managerial activities, and it's saying no, that activities that are managerial in nature is what actually constitutes public administration. So these are what the two divergent views regarding the nature of public administration. We then move to the scope of public administration. The scope of public administration. Now we say the following are the two important perspectives about the scope of public administration. Just like we have two divergent views regarding the nature of public administration, we also have two perspectives to the scope of public administration. And when we talk about scope, we are talking about the area of coverage, right? So we're referring to the area of coverage. What are those areas that public administration covers, okay? So that's the scope of public administration. And here, the first, we said we have two perspectives to the scope of public administration. And here in our perspective, we have the narrow perspective of public, narrow perspective of the scope of public administration. Another word for the narrow perspective is the post-COB perspective. The post-COB perspective. The post-COB perspective. Then the second perspective on the nature of public, I beg your pardon, the scope of public administration, we have the broad perspective or the subject matter perspective. Now we have authors, Luther Gulick is the main exponent of these perspectives. Now, according to him, the scope of public administration is narrow or limited. Now, that's the first perspective, right? We said the narrow perspective, or you can also call it the narrow perspective. You can still call it what? The post-COB perspective. Now, we said Luther Gulick is the main exponent of these perspectives. Then, according to him, he says that the scope of public administration is narrow or limited in nature. Now, it has to do with that's the post-COB view. Now we said it insists that public administration centers only on those aspects of administration which are related to the executive branch and its 7 types of administrative functions. Okay, so based on this very scope of public administration, the scope is just saying that public administration is related with or is centered on the executive branch, and it has 7 types of administrative functions. And these administrative functions are what inform the acronym of the post-COB. Okay, so we said these 7 types of functions, which shows the scope of public administration as follows. Okay, now the first functions on the area of coverage of public administration, we say area of public administration covers the planning in organization. So we said the P, which stands for what? Planning. And by planning, it means the working out in broad outline the things that needs to be done. In a nutshell, some other people, some scholars see planning as getting things done. Planning means planning is deciding in advance what to do, when to do, and how to do a particular task or activity in an organization. So the first P in the post-COB perspective stands for planning. Then the second P in the post-COB perspective stands for organizing. And by organizing, it means establishment of the formal structure of authority through which the work is subdivided and managed, defined, and coordinated. So we're talking about the establishment of formal structure. And as we said, in public administration, one of the coverage or area of coverage of public administration is the establishment of formal structure of authority in an organization. Now we have the S that stands for staffing. Okay, we have the S for staffing. Now the S we said stands for staffing, and staffing here means that basically has to do with the recruitment and training of personnel and condition of work in an organization. Now, we said one of the area of coverage of public administration is to ensure what the recruitment and training of personnel in an organization. Then the D here stands for directing. And by directing, we means making decision and issuing orders and instructions. Okay, so we also have the CO. The CO are put together. It's not just you don't look at it separately, you look at them together. So the CO stands for coordinating or coordination, whichever way you want to look at it. So we said the CO stands for coordination, and by coordination has to do with the interrelating the work of various divisions of and other parts in an organization. The interrelating or interrelationship of these works of various divisions in an organization, while the R here stands for reporting. And by reporting here, we mean informing the superiors within the organization to whom the executives, okay, is responsible about what is going on. So we said that is the R, which stands for reporting. Then we also have the B here that stands for budgeting. And by budgeting here, we mean what fiscal planning and control, as well as what accounting of affairs or activities in an organization. So that's the first narrow perspective, or you can also call it the broad perspective to the scope of public administration. We also have here, having talked about the narrow perspective or the post-scope perspective, the next perspective here is the broad perspective, or some scholars will call it subject matter view. Now we said, we all know that public administration deals with not only with the processing, but also with the substantive matters of administration, such as defense, law and order, education, public health, agriculture, public works, social security, justice, welfare, etc. So we said these services require not only post-corp techniques, but also have important specialized techniques of their own, which are not covered by post-corp techniques. So we said this broad perspective are looking at other specialized, okay, other specialized techniques that are not covered by the post-corp perspective, which is the planning, organizing, staffing, directing, coordinating, reporting, and budgeting techniques. So we said all other functions that are not covered by these particular technique, we said that is referred to as the specialized techniques. Now, we say, for example, if you take police administration, it has its own techniques in crime detection, maintenance of law and order, to mention but a few, which are much and more vital to efficient police work. Then the former principle of organization, personnel management, coordination, and finance, and it is the same with other services too. So we say, therefore, the study of public administration should deal with both processes, that is, post-corp techniques and the substantive concerns. So what this broad perspective is saying that the scope of public administration should not just cover or deal with the processes, which is the post-corp techniques, that's the functions of administration, but it should also cover the substantive concerns, which is what the specialized techniques. So we said we conclude that the scope of public administration with the statement of Louis Merriam, who says that what public administration is an instrument with two blades like a pair of scissors. One blade may be the knowledge of the field, which is basically what the post-corp, and the other blade is the knowledge of the subject matter in which the course is all about. So we said these two blades must be good to make an effective tool. So basically, this broad perspective based on what we have here is more encompassing. It covers both the post-scope techniques and also the substantive techniques, and that is the specialized techniques. So that is that about the scope of public administration. We then move to the distinction between public and private administration. What is the distinction between public and private administration? Or you can simply say that what's the difference between public and private administration? Like we said from the beginning, the public administration is just talking about looking at the general public, right? While the private administration is more or less business concerned. So we said Felix A. Negro has pointed out that government is also different from private administration, as no private company can equal to it in size and diversity of activities. Now we're going to look at what are those things that when you see or when you hear or when someone tries to explain or that that try to set aside or set apart public from private administration. The first point I would like us to discuss here is the political direction. Okay, so we say public administration is political, while private administration is non-political. Oh yes, public administration is political in nature. It has a political undertone, while private administration is non-political. And by non-political, we're saying that what private administration is more or less looking at the business aspect of the organization, or it's business like, or has basically is looking at the business activities of organizations. We said public administration takes place in a political context. Oh yes. So that's the first difference. That's the first thing you tell, or that's the first point that you see, and you boldly say that what this is what we public administration, the political direction is what sets apart public from private administration. Now, the second point I would like us to talk about now is the absence of profit motive. We said the absence of profit motive from the public administration is another feature which distinguishes it from private administration. The primary purpose of governmental organization is to provide services to the people and to promote social good. Unlike private administration that has the profit motive, that one is clearly spelled out, because we know that businesses are not running a charity organization. And because it is not a charity organization, one of the primary objectives of every business is to maximize profit. And profit maximization is absent in the public administration or in the public setting. And the reason being that the public organizations are set up by government to provide social services to its citizens and to provide and to promote social good. So we said public administration has is not profit inclined, or it doesn't have that profit motive. That is to say, public administration is not public oriented, while private administration is profit oriented. Sorry, what I mean to say is public administration is not profit oriented, while private administration is profit oriented. So profit motive is one of the things you see and you tell that this organization is a public organization, or while the other one is private administration. We move to the third point here under the distinction between public and private administration. The next is prestige. Public administrators who serve in the government enjoy higher status and prestige in comparison with their counterparts in private enterprises, especially developing countries. Oh yes, you know, there's this prestige, there's this name, there's this goodwill that comes with um, um, governments, public administrators, people that work in the government setting. They are being seen as people with high status and prestige in comparison to their counterparts in private enterprises, especially in developing countries. Then the next point here we see is the public gaze. All the actions of the public administration are exposed to wide public gaze because the public closely watches it. What we're trying to say is in the public administration, whatever activities or all activities in the public setting undergo public scrutiny. You know, people say, people talk, people are watching. In fact, people are even waiting for you to just take that step. And before you know, people must have something. People criticize, people say things with activity that comes with public offices or administration. So we said, but that is not so in the private administration. We said this does not happen in private administration. The next item I would like us to talk about here is the service and cost. We say most governments spend more money than their income or revenue. That is to say, that is why we discover that in the public administration, what we see mostly is deficit budget, because we discover that government, in a bid to provide, to promote social good or to provide public services to its citizens, spend a lot of money to carry out capital projects, and we discover at the end of the day, they spend more money than the income and or the revenue they generate from those services they offer to the general public. And at the end of the day, we discover that the experience or what we see thereafter is the deficit budget. But we say that is not so in the private administration. We say private administration income often exceeds expenditure. Oh yes, when we look at the private administration, the profit motive is there. That is the primary objective of every business. Like I said earlier, businesses are established or are being set up to maximize profit. And because they maximize profit, they realize quite a very huge income or revenue are being generated from the maximization of profit. So we said that is not so with the private administration. So we said the costs and the services as another thing or distinction that tries to distinguish or that distinguishes public from private administration. The next point under the distinction between public and private administration we have here is bureaucracy. Public administration is bureaucratic, while private administration is business-like. Yes, you see, public administration has this bureaucratic bottlenecks that makes it very, very, very difficult for activities to be carried out in the public domain. But when you talk of private administration is as flexible as they can. So we said it is business like because they have goals, they have objectives, they are set out for themselves to achieve. So you discover that they are business minded, and because they are business minded, they tend to be flexible compared to their counterparts in the public administration. So we said public administration is bureaucratic in nature, while private administration is business-like, or we said you can even say private administration is flexible or not as bureaucratic as the public administration. Moving forward, we will also be looking at some similarities between public administration and private administration. Okay, so we've talked about the distinction between public and private administration. So we also look at the similarities. Of course, they have some similarities. There are some things about private administration and public administration that are similar. Okay, so we said the following are the similarities between the two types of administration. First we have here is both public and business administration. Sorry, why I said business here, because private administration, like I mentioned earlier, is business administration. So it's talking about the same thing. Okay, so don't get confused. When you see me say business administration or private administration, I'm just trying to use those two words interchangeably, but they actually mean the same thing. So we said both public and private administration rely on common skills, techniques, and procedures. Oh yes. Now, if you look at it closely, we said both make use of human resources. They carry out transformation processes that leads to the realization of its goals and objectives. So we said they have common skills in the sense that they both require the human element to do their jobs. Okay, so we said they require the same number of human elements, whether it is a private organization or it is a public organization. These organizations, they require or they need human elements to carry out their functions for them. So we said they rely on common skills, they rely on people with all the skills, whether it is technical skills, whether it is conceptual skills, whether it's interpersonal skills, all the skills that are required of the human element to do their jobs. We said both the public and the private administration rely on them. They also rely on techniques and procedures. They have almost the same techniques, they have the same procedure, they rely on these techniques, they rely on procedures to do their jobs. The second similarities between public and private administration, here we said in modern times, the principles of profit motive is not peculiar to private administration because it is now acceptable as a laudable objective for public sector enterprises also. Oh yes, we mentioned earlier when we were talking about the distinction, we said that governments expend a lot of money in carrying out capital projects or carrying out projects or providing public services for its citizens. So we said, and all this requires money, and we have government agencies or government organizations that have been set up, and we said that here that the principle of profit motive is not peculiar to private administration alone. Of course, businesses, it is now acceptable as a laudable objective for public enterprises also, because it is through those revenue that are being generated in the public organizations or by government that are being used to carry out those capital projects. So if you look at it carefully, take both the private and the public administration generates revenue to carry out their projects, whether it is for the social provision of social services, or it is for realization to be shared among shareholders or other stakeholders in the business, that is for the business administration. Now we also talk about in personnel management, the private organizations have been influenced greatly by the practice of the public administration. Oh yes, most of the practices that are being done in the private organization, in the public organization, is what is actually influencing to a greater extent the activities that takes place in the private organization. That was why, remember the first point we mentioned, we said they have common skills, they have common techniques, and they have common procedures. Then the next point on the similarities, we said the private concerns are also subjected to many legal constraints. Government in exercising much control over business firm through regulatory legislation such as taxation, monetary and licensing policy, etc. We say consequently they are not as free as they once used to be. So we said one of the similarities is we said the government agencies or government organizations exercise much control over business firms through regulatory legislation such as taxation, monetary, and others. The next point we said there is a similar type of hierarchy and management system in both the private and the public sector. They both have same kind of organization structure. Okay, so basically what this point is saying is talking about the hierarchy. It's talking about the chain of command. Okay, so we said here there is a similar type of hierarchy and management system. Whatever you see, there's a structure, organizational structure in both the private and the public organizations. Okay, in public administration, there is a chain of command, there is a hierarchy, there is a structure, there is how information flows from the top down to the bottom or vice versa. And we said the same thing that happens in the public administration is what is obtainable in private administration. So we're saying here that the hierarchy and management system, we have management in private administration, we also have management in public administration. That is to say, we have management in the business organization and we also have management in the public administration. And we said these managements have systems, have structure, and all these structures are obtainable in both the public and the private organization. So we're saying here there is an organizational structure that is present in both the public and the private organization. And we said superior subordinate relationship also exists both in the public and also the private organization. Now we have the sixth point here on the similarities is both public and private administration carries on continuous effort to improve the workings and also for efficient delivery of services of people and customers. If you look at it, they are all there to serve customers. The customers of the public organization is the citizens. The citizens of every country are the customers of the government. So we said both the public administration and the private administration carries on continuous effort in improving the standard of living on the working condition or of its customers, while the private administration tries to maximize profit, but they must ensure what they satisfy the needs and the wants of its customers. Likewise, the public administration must provide social amenities, must provide goods and services, or in form of carrying out projects that will better the life of each citizen. So if you look at it, we said both of them deliver services to its people and its customer. While the customers are for the business, then the people are the primary focus or the target of the public administration. Still on the similarities, finally, we said public and private administration serves the people, whether being called client or customers. Both have to maintain close contact with people to inform about their services and also to get feedback about services and products. In both the cases, public relations help them to inform and improve their services to the people. So finally, we're saying on the similarities also, we're saying here what public and private administration serves the people. They all are being established, or the primary aim is to serve the people, while the private administration is to ensure they provide qualitative goods or services to meet the demands of its target audience. We said also that the public administration is also working towards serving its people or citizens. We now talk about, we move to the importance and role of public administration. We said the role of public administration in various facets is noted below. 1. Basis of the government. We said one of the importance or role of public administration is that what a government can exist without a legislation or an independent judiciary, but no government can exist without administration. So public administration is very important, very pivotal to the existence of every government, without which the government cannot exist. Second, or number 2, here we have an instrument for providing services. So we say public administration is mainly concerned with the performance of various activities performed by government in the public interest. Okay, so we said an instrument for providing services. Public administration is concerned with the performance of various activities performed by government in the interest of the public. We said here, Felix A. Negro aptly remarks, the real core of administration is the basic service which is performed for the public. The most important reason for public administration is what? Public service. So we said it is an instrument for providing services to the public. So that is why public administration is very, very important. The third here, or number 3, of the importance and the role of public administration, we said an instrument for implementing policies. We said modern governments go a long way in formulating and adopting sound policies, laws, and regulations. We said it should not be forgotten that such policies, law, etc., are not merely printed papers. Such paper declarations of intent are translated into reality by public administration, thus converting words into action and form into substance. Then the third role of public administration, we said public administration is a stabilizing force in society. Public administration is a major force of bringing stability in the society, because it has been observed that through government, public often changes, but violent changes is seldom through public administration. So we say it is not, it does not hold true only to constitutional changes of government, but we said it is also reflected when there is revolutionary changes in the form and changes of government. So we said it helps in stabilizing. Okay, we're saying that public administration here helps in stabilizing the forces in the society. So in a nutshell, we can say that what public administration is an instrument of change in the society, because it is expected to accelerate the process, okay, of development. Now we say in our country, the government has undertaken the task of leveling down the economic inequalities and spreading education in the country. So we said all what public administration does is that what it is an instrument of change in the society, because it helps accelerate the development that is required for a functioning country. The importance and the role of administration also, here we said, is an instrument of social change and economic development. Well, this point is similar to what I have explained earlier. We say public administration role as a change agent is particularly crucial in development nations. So we said it is expected of a state at present to work for accelerating socio-economic changes and not to be in a passive agency to maintain the status quo. Then finally, on the importance of public administration, here we said its technical character. The present day government is expected to provide various services to its population. So we said the increase in the number of functions undertaken by the government requires highly specialized professional and technical services. Modern public administration usually presents galaxy to all of a nation's occupation. So we said it is a technical character. So we're going to stop here. I have an assignment for the class. So in our assignment, I would like you to first talk about, go through our materials and help us, tell us whether you think public administration is science or an art. Is public administration science or an art? Then finally, why study public administration? Simply put, why do we study public administration? Thank you very much for your time. I pray this is going to serve as a very useful material for you, and I'll see you in our next class. I still remain my humble self, Dr. Blessing John Abika. Thank you very much for your time. Have an amazing evening. Bye.